Alrighty, well, mayang gabi sa inyo tanan. Good evening, good evening. How are we doing this fine evening? Not too. You all look very full. Busog, busog, good. I think anybody's hungry, that's a good thing. We don't want anybody going hungry physically. Mas importante pag we don't want anybody going hungry spiritually. So let's open up our Bibles to the book of Song of Songs, chapter 2. You'll recall, sa Nagligad, it's been a couple of weeks, for we had the team from Japan, which had us a little week off from our midweek study, and then we had our first Wednesday of the month, which is always a blessing. We have people come from the church and share. But a couple weeks back, we opened up with a new book of the Bible. It was the third, the third book written by Solomon. Now, he wrote them at different periods of his life. He wrote the first book, which would have been the Song of Songs, when he was bata pa, when he was still young. His second book that he wrote would have been the book of Proverbs. We assume that he wrote that more or less in his middle-aged. And then when he was beyond his 50s, I know what that feels like now. When you get beyond your 50s and you're now ranked as old, well, that's when Solomon would have written the book of Ecclesiastes, kind of reflecting back on his life. This is one of the three books that Solomon would have written. The book does have some unique challenges to it. Song of Songs in particular has three different ways that it can be interpreted. There are those who approach the book quite literally. There is the literal approach to the interpretation, meaning it's just a love story between Solomon and the Shulamite woman. That's all there is to it. There's nothing more to see. That's all the story has for us. I doubt that's correct. It would not be in the Bible if it was just simply a love story between one man and one woman. The second way that it can be interpreted is what we call allegorically, meaning there was no relationship between Solomon and the Shulamite. It has nothing to do with any historical facts. It is strictly a picture of Jesus Christ and his love for the church. So everything we read in the book of Song of Solomon, everything points to a spiritual truth about the relationship that God has with us. Probably also not entirely accurate. I do like that, and we definitely will be dealing with those pictures that we will see. I think it is probably the third interpretation, which is called the typological. That blends the first two. Is there really a love relationship? Was there really a love story between Solomon and the Shulamite? I do believe there was. But does that love relationship have a deeper understanding as it points to the relationship we have with Jesus Christ? Yes, I believe that's also true. And that combination of that dual understanding, that dual interpretation, is how we will approach the book. We will deal with it in light of the relationship Solomon had with the Shulamite, but at times we will jump into the deeper meaning of what it means between Christ and the church. That being said, the book has a very simple outline, 3 sections to it. The first section that we're in currently is chapter 1 through chapter 3, verse 5. It is the dating section. Wala pa kasal sila. They're not yet married, they're just getting to know one another. The second section begins in chapter 3, verse 6, and it goes through chapter 5, verse 1. That's the wedding. There's a beautiful description of the wedding of Solomon and the Shulamite here within the book. Quite an amazing passage. Ladies, I'm sure you'll enjoy that very much. Every lady loves a good wedding. It's a good wedding. But katapusan, the final section of the book deals with, from chapter 5, verse 2 till chapter 8, verse 14, the marriage itself. Interestingly, they do have problems. Once they get married, as is so often shockingly the case, you have that picture that, once we're married, everything's going to be perfect. Not so much. 2 sinners come together, there tends to be some problems, and such is the case also with Solomon and the Shulamite, and they're going to deal with and address these challenges that come within marriage. That's the final section of the book we deal with. So we have dating, the marriage, and then after the marriage. And we have 3 different main characters. These are important because we're going to see these repeatedly. You have the Shulamite. Her name means peace. She is the woman that Solomon falls in love with. You have Solomon. Solomon is the main character. He's the groom that's coming to sweep the bride off her feet. His name also, by the way, means peace. Kind of funny. Both of them mean the same thing. But there's a third group that we call the daughters of Jerusalem. Now, they are referred to on occasion. Most of the time, it's just by the context and the grammar, we assume they're talking to somebody else. Who is that? Ang iban sa mga tao na lang. So you have Solomon, the Shulamite, and pretty much just everybody else. And depending on the grammar is who we're going to decide who's speaking at any given point in time. That being said, let's pick up on our Bible study in Song of Songs. You'll recall We do call it Song of Songs. It's one of two possible names. You can call it the Song of Solomon. That is correct. We refer to it as the Song of Songs because it is the love song. It's not just Solomon, it is the love song. It does point to the deeper meaning of the relationship between Christ and the church. Chapter 2, beginning in verse 1, as we begin to look at how the Shulamite and Solomon fell in love. We pick up in verse 1. The Shulamite is speaking. She says, I am a rose of Sharon and a lily of the valleys. Stop right there. By the way, somewhat of a famous verse. You've probably heard of the rose of Sharon. You've probably heard of the lily of the valley. Sometimes those are interpreted as being Jesus Christ. That is not accurate. This is the Shulamite describing herself. And it doesn't have the meaning you might assume. She's saying, I'm nothing special. Here's how it works. We know first and foremost from our previous study that the Shulamite thought she was kalawai. She was ugly. Why was she ugly? What particular physical feature did she have she did not like? Itom siya. She was dark. Because she was dark-skinned, back in Song of Songs chapter 1 verse 6, she said, I'm not very pretty. I'm not very, attractive overall. Unfortunately, I had to work outside. Nagitom, I'm very, very dark-skinned. Solomon said, now you're beautiful. But she goes on here, still kind of carrying with this same theme. And she says, I'm an ordinary flower. That word translated for you, depending upon your particular Bible, is rose. Probably is more accurately a daffodil, a weed. A common flower that just grows up in a field, one amongst countless others. She's saying, I'm no different than anybody else. I'm just a common flower. I'm a common lily. If you are in the plains of Sharon, that's where I'm going to be a daffodil. If you're in the valleys, I'd be a lily. But I'm just a normal flower. I'm just like everybody else. But I want you to see how Solomon responds to her. For the beloved there in verse 2 answers her and says, if you are a lily, every other woman is a thorn. Good answer, by the way. That is a very good answer. He doesn't argue with you. He's not debating. He's not going to sit there and have some kind of a long discussion trying to prove to her she's beautiful. He's just going, if you want comparisons, let's make it accurate. If you think you're ordinary, everybody else is absolutely ugly. I mean, you're just a lily, then everybody else is just this thorny bush that you don't even want to get anywhere near. You are indeed very, very special. He's basically pointing out, you are the one for me. And now stop here for a minute because I do want to address this. Those of you who've been married, those of you who want to get married, listen because it's applicable to both sides. The idea of having the one, I think, is worth addressing. Is there one person that we are called, foreordained? We might say from the foundation of the world, God picked out for us that person that we're called to be with. Does the Bible teach that there is this idea of the perfect person for us? Solomon seemed to think the Shulamite woman was the one. Is he accurate? No. This is important because when we come into the Bible and talk about who we're going to marry, the Bible never says a word. From Genesis to Revelation, there is no qualification. By the way, not even one. I know oftentimes we'll go back to the verse, and I do think that it does make sense. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, do not be unequally yoked. Do not marry an unbeliever, which, just to be clear, if you are not married and you are dating an unbeliever, buangid ka, you are crazy. That is foolishness. Absolutely do not do that. But does the Bible tell you not to do that? No. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 never mentions marriage. Marriage doesn't come up in the entire book, not just that chapter. When we talk about qualifications of who we are to marry, the Bible is silent. There is no such thing as the one. Why is that dangerous? Let's say you get married. You have that overwhelming amount of emotion. We're going to get here in a minute. You are sick with love. You are just absolutely, all you can see is the wonder, the beauty, the person that you want to spend your life with. You're sure this is the person for you. And then you walk down the aisle. And you have more than a couple of hours together with them. And you think, I made a mistake. They're not the one. I think maybe that was a bad choice and a bad decision. This is not who I thought they were. I had rose-colored glasses on. I was looking at all the good things and I missed all the bad things. And now I'm terrified. And you think, maybe there's another one. This is the danger. if we assume that there's a perfect person out there for us, someone ordained from the beginning that God has chosen, which God does know, by the way. He knows everything. He knows who we're going to marry. But if we assume that there's a perfect person for us, we expect a perfect person. And they do not exist. It is not about who we marry. It's about who's the foundation of our marriage. Don't look for the one, you look for Jesus Christ. If you put Jesus at the center, whoever you marry will become the one, and you will have an extraordinary relationship. Solomon, he understood this to a degree, but he was looking through those rose-colored glasses. Everybody else is a thorn. I do like what he puts because, of course, the ladies love that. You want to hear your special? Solomon understood that. But look at verse 3. For the Shulamite goes on. She responds to Solomon's declaration of her being unique. And she says, You, Solomon, you're like an apple tree among the trees of the wood. So was my beloved among the sons. I sat down in his shade with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. Meaning, if she was a lily amongst thorns, Solomon was the apple tree amongst the ordinary ones. He was the special tree. Nobody else had any fruit. Only he had the sweet fruit she wanted to eat from. He was just as special as she was. She comes back with a very similar response. But I like how she adds to it. And I can't wait to sit underneath your branches. I want to find that shade inside of your tree. I can't wait to taste of the tender fruit that grows off of your branches. In other words, she understood that she would be protected and safe and satisfied in her relationship with him. Let me go a little deeper. I'll try to be gentle because I know we have a mixed audience this evening. But lust is not the same thing as love. Those are very different things. And if we assume, and there are men, and I'll pick on the men in this, there are men who assume that if you get married, it will cure the lust perhaps that you have. I'm here to tell you right now that is absolutely incorrect. If you are struggling with lust and you get married, you will still struggle with lust, but now you'll bring it into your marriage relationship. And the danger here is that there are men who get married and they are still dabbling with things like pornography and other things that are inappropriate, assuming that marriage would take care of it. And when it doesn't, now they bring that sin into their marriage, and their wives no longer feel secure. Men, please listen. When you look at things you should not look at, when your eyes go places they should not go, your wife knows it. She may not tell you, but she recognizes and she knows. Women have an amazing sense to be able to pick these things out, and it makes them feel insecure because you're making them question and doubt the fact that they are satisfying you, that you are enough for them. And therefore, we need to be very careful to make sure that we are content in our marriage. We want to make sure that our wives feel secure in our relationship, that they are satisfied, and we are satisfied with them. This is what the Shulamite woman is stating. She understood that Solomon was all she wanted, and they were going to be content in one another. And the result was, Solomon wasn't ashamed. Look at verses 4 through 6. For, he responds, the Shulamite to the daughters of Jerusalem, she's speaking out, he brought me into his banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Now stop right here. How did Solomon respond to this declaration of love, the fact that they are just infatuated with one another? He brought her into the banqueting hall, to the feasts. Pila ka tao ka may pagkaon para sa mga, a feast. If you're having a festival, how many people are going to be there? Jutay kon damo. Damo, gid. For sure, you're going to have a lot of people. And the idea is, Solomon walks in. This is my bride. This is my girl. This is the Shulamite. I adore her. She's amazing. She's the lily amongst the thorns. There's no one like her. And he wanted everybody to know and everybody to be aware that this was the woman that he was a proud, absolute, in relationship with, and he wanted everyone to recognize that she's the one he was going to marry. He had a banner over her that said, I love her. Here's where we'll take a little bit of a moment to dig a little deeper. Because this is what Jesus does to us. Now, I've got to be honest. We are a bit like the Shulamite. We sit there and we go, who are we? We're dark, we're Etom, we're all sinful, we make lots of mistakes, and we do make a lot of mistakes. Not only that, but, we're ordinary, we're just common. There's everybody else like us. Wouldn't Jesus prefer somebody else? Why would Jesus want us? Yet Jesus has this exact same kind of a heart towards us. He walks in and he doesn't humbly or shyly or bashfully say, yeah, I'm going to be with them. That's my bride. No. His banner over us is love. He wants the whole world to know. He declares to anyone and everyone that he adores us above all else. You see here a beautiful picture of exactly how much God loves us. Go back to Revelation 21:9. He declares, this is my bride. And this is the one that I adore. This is the one that I died for. There is none quite like her. He puts that banner over us, much like Solomon did over the Shulamite, of love. And the Shulamite, well, she got kind of dramatic with it. Look at verse 5. She turns to Solomon and she says, sustain me with cakes and raisins. Feed me. I need food. Give me some food right now. Refresh me with apples, for I am love sick. His left hand was under my head. His right hand embraced me. In other words, the emotion of all this became too much. I think it might have been some drama, if I'm honest. Put yourself in the Shulamite's position. She walks into a big old banquet hall, walks in with the king of all people. Here's the king of all Israel. She's his girl. This is his bride. He's introducing her. He's all blushing and ghosting and gushing over her, banner over his love. And she goes, okay, that's too much. And she goes, give me some food. I think I'm going to fall down. You need to hold me up because I'm about to faint. Whether it's drama or not, I love the fact Solomon was there for her and still ministered to her. He was not ashamed of her in any way or form. And now here's the thing. Emotion can be deceiving. Ladies, I want you to listen to this. You get into a relationship and you really think the guy is something special, something amazing. And emotion takes over and your brain turns off. You stop thinking clearly and you're just moving forward going, he's everything and I adore him. Is he proud to declare to others that you are his? If you find a man who's not willing to say that he wants you publicly, if he's not willing to take that stand and say, you are mine and I am yours, walk away. Walk away, because you should see exactly what Solomon does here. You should see him boldly declaring to you, unabashedly telling everyone around you, you belong to me, even if you act like a bit of a drama. Even if you're fainting because you're lovesick, whatever the Shulamite was going at here, he's not going to care. He loves you enough. He's going to take care of you. He's going to be there with you regardless, because that is how he's going to prove to you he is the one that you want to have at your side. The Shulamite, love it. Got a little dramatic. Solomon was right there for her. And then she goes on to say, verse 7, I need to wait. For listen to this. This is powerful. She charges the daughters of Jerusalem, all the other people. And here, by the way, this is specifically addressing the daughters. They are named in the text. By the gazelles and the does of the field, do not stir up, nor awaken love until it pleases. Stop, because this is really powerful, by the way. If you are not yet married, if you're married, you're not going to appreciate this as much. If you are not yet married, pay attention. For what she's saying is, you need to have good timing in how you wake up love. Because once you start to awaken it, there is no stopping it. It is a freight train that you are not going to be able to slow down. It moves fast, and it's not going to get anywhere else but to its ultimate destination unless you are very careful how you go forward. She's saying, be cautious. She makes reference, by the way, to gazelles or does. What's she talking about? Let's see if I can be polite in this again. They procreate. They make little babies in the right season. They have a timing for what they're doing, and that's what she's referencing here. She's talking about physical intimacy, and she's talking about be careful about how close you get to somebody, because the moment you start to build that relationship, you are beginning towards an inevitable path that will lead to an intimacy between the two of you. Here's how it begins, by the way, and it does start very innocently. You hold their hand. Ooh. That hand-holding little shock comes through. You feel electric vibes going up and down. Oh, that's kind of nice, actually. But what happens is the holding of the hand leads to a little kiss. Nothing too intimate, just a little peck on the cheek or something. You know what? We're okay. We're being very careful. Careful, maybe not. That little peck on the cheek doesn't tend to stay there. It starts with a little caress, and before you know it, you are in a speeding car that's about to crash. And you are not going to slow it down. The wisdom is, and this is what she's talking about. Know that we are designed to want to come together as a husband and wife. God has built that into us, both chemically, emotionally, and spiritually, all levels. Everything in us craves to have that relationship, and it builds towards that intimacy. If you start down that road, you will not stop it unless you put very stern roadblocks in the way. You sit there and you say, we will not be alone, period. Why? Because I do not trust myself. I know if you put me in a room alone with a person that I absolutely adore, I might do something stupid. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I put those boundaries there. I'm going to be cautious and say that, hey, listen, we can't do certain things. Can we hold hands? Carefully, in public. Can we kiss? Maybe not. Because that might be too far. That might open up some things that we're not going to be able to pull back from. We need to be careful. Go back to 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22. To flee sexual immorality. Do not allow that compromise. This is what the Shulamite is talking about. Be very careful not to awaken love before it's time. Why? Please listen. Because it is the will of God. You cannot put enough emphasis on this. It is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 3, the will of God that we abstain from sexual immorality. What is sexual immorality? Anything outside of marriage. Any intimacy, any playing around outside of the boundaries of matrimony where you have one husband and one wife for life, that is sexual immorality, and it is God's will that we do not do that. And the danger is if we're not careful, we are not going to stop it. We're going to end up falling into sin. We're going to compromise our walk, and that means we have a very poor foundation for our marriage. Paul would say in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 13, the body, aton lawas, is not meant for sexual immorality. It is meant for the Lord. We are to honor God in all that we are, honor God in all that we do. And therefore, we need to abstain from having any relationships before we get married. Why? Because of how God designed us. This gets interesting. When Adam and Eve were in the garden, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, God looked out, saw Adam, said, no, that's not good. We need to make him a helpmate. Made Eve out of his side, brought them together, and the two became one. Please stop right here. This idea of becoming one means that there is a bond that takes place once intimacy occurs between a husband and a wife. It is a physical bond. It is an emotional bond. It is a spiritual bond. And God intended it to be between one man and one woman because He wants that intimacy to be something that draws you together for a lifelong relationship. It is powerful. It is God intended. It is God designed. And when we are messing around, and I know that is very popular in the world today, when you're just sitting there and having multiple partners, I dated this guy, I dated this girl, we slept together. What? As if it was casual, just something in the passing of the night. As if somehow, it's like you had a good dinner or, you had a nice time going to see a movie. Yeah, we also slept together. What? What are you talking about? That is not something to be thrown around because you start to cheapen something that God meant to be incredibly powerful. You undo a bond, you weaken a bond that God meant to last a lifetime. We are not to be doing that. That's why God commanded it. He designed it to work a very specific way. Therefore, we're not to wake up love before it's time. We want to let it be something that gives honor to God. And listen, I'll pick on you ladies again. The men tend to be more demanding in this area, if I'm honest. Any man that sits there and pressures you and says that he wants to eat the cookies before you walk down the aisle, walk away. Because if he's not willing to wait, if he's not willing to honor God before you're married, why would he do so afterwards? That's not a man you want to spend your life with. You want someone who puts Jesus first. God has a plan for marriage, intimacy, a part of that plan, and that's why the Shulamite wisely said, do not awaken this before it is time. But that brings us to the second thing we want to look at in our passage this evening in verses 8 through 14. Having looked at this coming together, this spark of love that began between the two of them, we're going to look at how they show each other love. And there are three ways. Notice first and foremost there in verse 8. The Shulamite, she speaks and says, the voice of my beloved, behold, he comes leaping over the mountains, skipping upon the hills. He's excited to see her. He's running to make sure he sees her. My beloved is like a gazelle or like a young stag. So how does Solomon show that he loves the Shulamite? He shows her practically, in his actions. That's the first way. He shows her by what he does. And the idea is he is doing everything, anything that he can to make sure that he has the time to come and see her. Because the most important thing for him is to spend time with his bride-to-be. Do you ever wonder? I know I do. How is it that people can walk down the aisle, and they do, dua katao, asawa, bana, they get married, they obviously love one another. They exchange vows till death do us part, and they seem to mean it. Fast forward 5, 10, 15 years, and they hate one another. How do you go from love to hatred? How does that take place? Here's the simple answer. You stop investing practically in the person that you are spending your life with. Our heart is a really interesting thing. We think we follow our heart. Not true. Our heart follows our choices. There's a reason why there's a cliche that the man runs off with his secretary. That's all over the world, by the way. Why does the man run off with a secretary? Because he doesn't ever see his wife. Who does he see all day long? Secretary. And as they're just talking, it's super innocent at first, by the way. They're talking and they're going, yeah, how was your day? Not so bad. How was your day? Pretty good. And that talking becomes, what's going on with you right now? Hey, let's have lunch together. You start to spend time. What are you doing? Investing in a relationship that is not your wife. And what inevitably happens when you do that is you watch your heart begin to move. Suddenly your wife is not as attractive as she used to be. She's not as appealing as she once was. Nor are you to her. She's no longer as attracted to you. What happened? You're no longer investing in one another. You start to split apart, go different directions, and before you know it, what was once love becomes hatred. Why? Go back to Matthew 6:21, because where you put your treasure, masunod naman, there your heart will go also. Solomon understood this, and he was willing to do anything, everything to get to his bride. He's like, nothing is more important than me spending time with you. I'm going to go and I'm going to hang out with you. I'm going to jump over mountains. I'm going to jump over hills. Whatever obstacles between me and you, I'm going to get there. Why? Because spending time with you matters. Now, that's not hard to do when you're dating. It tends to get forgotten once we're married. Husbands, wives, you need to date even after you get married. You need to find the time, go to dinner, go out and do special things together. Find the time to invest in one another because you need to make sure your heart is following your choices. Solomon understood, and he had the actions to show that he loved the Shulamite. But he also said it with his eyes. Take a look at verse 9. The Shulamite goes on and says, behold, Solomon is standing at our wall. He's looking through our windows. He's gazing through our lattice. Do not misunderstand. Solomon is not a stalker. He's not showing up in the middle of the night and you look out your window. Solomon is at my window. Oh my goodness. No, he's not a stalker. He is showing he has eyes only for her. Where his eyes go tells the Shulamite she is the only one for him. I'm sometimes amused. I got to say, I do find it funny, although it's probably not overly funny in the actual practical, but watch a husband and wife walk together through the mall or Biscayne, wherever they're walking. Look where the husband's looking. I guarantee you, his wife is. He's looking around. If his eyes are on all the women who pass by, his wife is not going to look, she's going to look very unhappy. She's going to show she's really frustrated. Why? Because he's not looking at the right thing. I got to tell you, I have this preferred look when I walk into a mall. Stare at this. My wife gives me a hard time. She goes, what do you like about the ceiling? It's safe. I know there's nothing up there that's going to be dangerous to look at. I just enjoy the architecture. What can I tell you? Because you don't want to see oftentimes what people want you to look at. And that's wisdom for us as men, because our wives are noticing it. And if you're looking at things you shouldn't be, it makes them insecure. It makes them question and wonder whether you really truly care about them. Watch your eyes. Job would say in Job chapter 31 verse 1, I have made a covenant with my eyes. I will not look upon a young woman. He was wise. He stared at a lot of ceilings. Look up. But there's a third way that Solomon showed his love. Look at verses 10 through 14. And that's what he said. He showed it in his actions. He showed it in his eyes. He showed it in his speech. For he said, my beloved, come away with me. Rise, my love, my fair one, and come away. So Solomon turns. Now let me give you some of the words here because they are fun. He turns to his beloved. The word there, by the way, for my love is my friend. I like that. When Solomon refers to the Shulamite woman, the word there in the Hebrew is my friend. My friend who I adore, who is beautiful. And he calls her this. You are beautiful. The word beautiful here, by the way, you know it, is the Hebrew word yafa. If you ever go to Israel, and Lord willing, we'll get a chance to go back in 2026, we will go to the city of Yafa. It is there upon the Mediterranean. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is this old ancient city that sits upon the water. You look out and you see the beautiful blue of the Mediterranean. It is a picturesque, perfect scene. That is the word Yafa. Beautiful. Hey, my friend, my beauty, come away with me. I want you to come and be with me. Now look, he gets poetic, guys. There's some good notes for you. You can use this for your wife at some point. Good poetry always helps. Look at verse 11. For lo, the winter is past and the rain, they're long gone. The flowers have appeared on the earth. The time of singing has come. The voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The tree puts forth her green figs. The vines with the tender grapes give a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away with me. What is Solomon describing? With some nice poetry. Wins you points, boys. It does. Guys, poetry to your wives, never a bad idea. What is he saying? The seasons are changing. Winter's gone. The winter rains have gone away. Hey, it's the springtime. All of the flowers are blossoming. The birds are singing. The trees are blooming. The grapevines are coming out. There's a beautiful smell of all the flowers. Can you get ready for it? Now is the time. It's a change of season. Come away from me. Come away and be my bride. He's saying it's time to stop being a dating couple. It's time to start being a married one. It's time for a change of seasons. Which know that seasons are a part of life. We're not going to always be in the same place. Those of you who are not married, don't worry. You will be. Those of you who are married, well, you're going to continue to be. Don't try to get out of the marriage. Stay where you're at. Those of you who have kids, don't worry. They're going to leave. But they'll bring back more. You're fine. They'll have grandkids and they'll come drop them off at your door. You'll have those for a long time to come. But all these things are seasons that we have in life, and we want to be open to how God wants to use each and every one of them. And the idea is be open, be available to the changes that God wants to bring, but ultimately in the end, keep your eyes upon the Lord. For the one constant is going to be Jesus Christ. But listen, the one person He will give to you for your whole life is your spouse. Everything else will change. Your kids, your grandkids, your season, your work, your location, your house, all these things come and go. What does not change? Your husband, your wife. This is the person that God is meant to give you to last a lifetime with you. Therefore, seasons change, but your spouse, they should last a lifetime. Which is why they're the best years. Look at verse 14. For Solomon goes on, O my dove, in the cleft of the rocks, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. In other words, it's not enough for me to think about being with you. I don't want to see you through the window anymore. I want to be with you. I want you to come away with me. I want to hear your voice. Every morning I can remember I'm going to embarrass my wife. I'm so sorry. Not really, but I'll say I'm sorry. I'm not. I can remember, and I told her this, there was a day we were dating. We were still just, not quite sure what was going to happen. Where it was that the orphanage out there in Handumana, in the Calvary Chapel orphanage, was just a nothing day, but happened to get called up to the third floor talking about something or another with the couple that runs it. And Jen happened to come out, and she was in her PJs and all fairness, appropriate, but she was in her PJs. I think just some flannel shirts or something like that, because she'd just gotten done dealing with some of the kids. And I looked over, and it just struck me. I could wake up to that every morning. I think that was the point. It really kind of hit me. I went, I think I'm okay with that. I would like that, actually. And she was no makeup. Her hair was probably kind of disheveled, but still as cute as could be. And I thought, I would love to wake up to that every morning. I thought that would be amazing. And that was kind of the moment in my heart I can look back to and say, put a ring on her finger. Let's go. But this is what Solomon is saying. It's not enough to just see you through a window. It's not enough to be distant. I want to spend every moment of every day with you. Now, here's where I find a good contrast. We're going to paint a picture and tie it into the spiritual once more. The world, unfortunately, has sold us on a lie. The world tells us the best years are the first years. If you want to enjoy your marriage, enjoy it while you can, because it's going to go downhill real quick. It's the honeymoon period. Ever heard of that? Oh, you're in the honeymoon period. You still think that, that your husband or your wife is the best thing ever? Give it some time. You're going to find out that's a lie. And you have this impression, this teaching, this idea that comes from the world like, listen, marriage is great, but it just doesn't last. And that is absolutely not the truth. For understand that our marriages are meant to be a reflection of Jesus Christ, so apply that to our relationship with the Lord. What, when we get to heaven, enjoy the first couple of millennia because they're the best, after that it's going downhill? That's a terrible thought. Enjoy heaven at first because later on it's not going to be so pleasant. No. It should get richer, deeper, sweeter, and better as time goes on. And that's absolutely the case. As much as I love being around Jen, as much as I looked forward to seeing her every day back when she was wearing her PJs at Calvary up in the third floor, man, I'm far, far more excited to be with her today. I love spending time with her. She asked me, what do you want for your birthday? Real simple, by the way, my birthday today. What do you want to do? I don't care, as long as I'm with you guys. That's all that really you desire. That's all that I want. Getting some points off that one. But that's all that you want because that's the way it should be as the time goes on. 16, 17 years, hopefully another 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 more, however the Lord gives us. We're going to have that time, and as the years go on, it does not get harder or drier. It gets richer. It gets better. Because that's how God designed marriage to be. Solomon understood that. The best years were the ones to come. But there were problems. Notice the katapusan. We'll close up with this in verses 15 through 17. Having looked at their love blossoming and as well as their love being expressed, it does conclude with some of the challenges that they ran into while they were dating. And it's subtle, but I'll give this to you. Notice verse 15 opens up with her brothers. Stop for a minute. That's not in the text, by the way. That is not in the Hebrew whatsoever. It is assumed by the grammar. We actually have no idea who the Shulamite is talking to. Basta ang iban sa mga tao. She's talking to someone else. We don't know who it is. But we do know what she requested. Help. She says, I know we're going to have problems. Ang iban sa mga tao, others, help us. Here, let me give you a little bit of insight. You all know what a maninoy and a maninay is, right? When you get married, you have your mga maninoy, maninay. I fear that to a large degree has become an excuse to have people give you money. You find the maninoy and the maninay who are mangaranon, who have the most amount, and they hopefully will bless you with some money to start off your relationship. That is what has become. That is not what it was supposed to be. That is not what it should be. What it should be, and I think this is beautiful, is more mature couples who are there to help the younger ones. Because make no mistake, marriage is difficult. Why is marriage difficult? Because you're a sinner, and so is your spouse. And when you put two sinners together, it's not twice as much sin, it's like exponential. It like just absolutely magnifies your sin. Listen, when I was single, I could do whatever I wanted to, and I was always right. Wherever I wanted to go, whatever I wanted to do, it was the right thing. Whatever I wanted to eat was the right thing to eat. I got married and suddenly I was wrong. Everything I did was wrong. How that worked. I blamed my wife because it was right before I married her. I got married and suddenly it was wrong. When you're married, you see your flaws, you see your imperfections because you realize you are quite selfish. And it brings that out. That's not easy. How do you deal with that? How do you overcome the challenges that are inevitably going to arise? Have godly couples who are there to help you. This is what this is talking about. She's crying out, calling out to those around her to help keep her accountable, help her in her relationship. For, notice verse 15 goes on, catch the little foxes. The little foxes that spoil the vines are vines that have tender grapes. Ano ini? She's using poetic language. The little foxes are problems. Notice she said little foxes. They're problems that are just getting started. Gamay pa sila. They're still young. But the problem is they're trying to come and eat the grapes on the vineyard, the young grapes. Speaking of the relationship that is just getting started. The picture is there are little problems that want to try to come in and do damage to this new relationship that is forming. And she's asking for help in overcoming them. What foxes are there? I want to give you 4. These are not exhaustive. This is not every fox that you can find. But after doing many, many years of marriage counseling, I will say that they're common. 4 very common challenges that you will find in marriage. Number 1, you need to understand your role is unconditional. Let me explain. What is the one command? What is the one command God gives to a wife? There is just one. Wives, no. Submit to your husbands. Is that conditional? Do you get to choose when and how? If your husband is bo'ot, if he is loving, if he's kind, if he's doing everything you ask, is that what you can qualify your submission on? Do you get to choose when to submit? No. In fact, the command given in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 is very emphatic. Wives, you submit to your husbands in all things as unto Jesus Christ. It is a present imperative, a constant command. It is brutal, but it is absolute. Husbands, what's the one command given to you? Love your wife, which it first, man, kind of seems like the easier one, if I'm honest. If you live love and submit, you go, I'll take the love over the submit. That seems easier. Until you understand what the word love means. That word love is the word agape. Perfect, self-sacrificial, God's love. It is something that is constantly commanded to be given. By the way, as Christ loves us, He's the pattern. How does Jesus love us? Does He remember anything we do wrong? No. Does Jesus expect anything of us? No. Meaning a husband is to love his wife, never hold anything against her, never ever expect anything of her, just pour out the love of God upon her. To the point of where, and Paul will clarify this, if your wife crucifies you, if she drives the very nails into your hands, love her in response. It suddenly doesn't seem as easy anymore. Yet these are the only commands given in marriage, and they are, here's your little fox, unconditional. It is not, I do my part if they do theirs. It makes no difference what they do. It's irrelevant how they act. My wife can be an absolute pill. She never is, by the way, but what get ya? But if my wife was an absolute pill, I still love her. Unfortunately for her, if I'm an absolute pill, that does happen, she still has to submit to me. It's unconditional. Why? So that we understand we cannot do it on our own. It brings us back to Jesus Christ. For if we base our marriage on looks, on commitment, on anything else, to be honest, other than the Lord, it's going to fail. Our marriage will not survive. Therefore, we must come back to Jesus. God gives impossible commands that bring us back to Jesus. This is the unconditional truth about what we must do for a marriage to work. And if we don't understand that, we're going to miss out on what God has for us. I can't tell you the number of times I have sat there and had to tell myself, I don't care what I think. I don't care what I feel. I don't care what she did. Love her, you knucklehead. That's your command. Because that's the truth. It is unconditional. Fox number 2. Investments. Money. Money's always kind of an interesting one. When we talk about money, there is this mentality given, especially para sa mga lalaki na lang, that it is our responsibility to provide. And that ends up causing a whole lot of contention within marriage. We need to be very clear who provides. Repeat that again. Who provides? Because if you think your man provides, you are in for a lot of very, very painful and unfortunately rude awakening of a day, because no, that's not the case. God provides. What is the command given to the husband? The world teaches us it's a responsibility of a man to provide. God says, no, men don't provide. Men, you must love. And this is what I've seen, by the way, destroy more marriages, and I cannot count the number of people who have walked into my office and have told me their marriage is collapsing, the number of times I've seen marriages end in divorce because the husband ignores his wife for the sake of a job. And he thinks, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm providing for my family. That's my command. That's my call. Isn't that what I'm required to do? No, it is not. The call of a husband is to love his bride. You must be with her. We're told in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, husbands dwell. Be in the same house with your wife. I, by the way, am absolutely 100% opposed to overseas workers. I think it's one of the most great tragedies that has befallen the Philippines. It has devastated more families. If you go with your wife, go for it. For a man to leave his family for 2 years, 4 years, and work overseas and never see his family for the sake of a peso is foolishness. And it should never happen. And it is the contrast, it is the contradiction of what the Bible declares. Do not chase the peso. Do not worry about the provision. Be obedient to what God has commanded. Love your bride. That brings us to the third fox, which is investment. Investment, by the way, doesn't speak of financial. Go back to time. You must spend time together. It's easy to do when you're dating. You're trying to build the relationship, trying to build the bonds. Once you're married, it's easy to overlook. Spend time together. When you don't, you will find you invest somewhere else. And where you invest, back to Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, synonimo tigiposon. Your heart will follow. Do not let the little fox come in and let your investments go somewhere else. Ikapat. Fourth and final, I'll give you this last one. Again, these are not inclusive. There's more, but these are just ones that I've seen commonly. Don't make the mistake of not understanding you are very different from one another. That difference is not accidental. It's designed, but it is very much a reality. I'll give a joke. I apologize if it doesn't work. Jokes are always kind of funny, and I'm not the best joke teller, but let me see if I can get this off as a point. There was a man. He found a bottle. He rubbed the bottle. What came out? Genie. I love when genies come out of bottles. By the way, that makes it not a true story. There are no genies in bottles, to be very clear, but for the sake of our story, genie comes out of the bottle. The genie comes out, and the genie says, you get one wish, not three. We get cheap genies on, some kind of a scale down. Only one wish. What's your one wish? He goes, my one wish is I want a highway. The guy wants to highway from Luzon to Mindanao. It's been promised for years, never seems to happen. Wants a highway all the way. And the genie looks at him and he goes, are you kidding me? That's impossible. There will never be a highway all the way from Luzon to Mindanao. It costs too much money. There's no way it will ever happen. There's way too much red tape. It's not going to take place. The guy goes, you're probably right. This is a little bit extreme. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked for something so drastic. Okay, I get another one. I want to understand my wife. The genie looked at him and said, do you want 2 lanes or 4? You will never understand mend your bride. Don't try to. Ladies, you probably do understand us to a fair degree because we're actually pretty simple. We're not too smart. But needless to say, there's going to be differences between us. Those differences are not accidental. They're designed. When God made Eve, He made her different. Why? Because together they made one. There are two parts of a whole. There are two sides of a coin. They're not meant to duplicate one another. They're meant to complement one another. And I find that so often with Jen. There are things that I just miss. I am logical. I am organized. I am probably to a fault. Someone who just looks and plans. And Jen will say, did you notice this? No, I did not. In all of my planning, I'll miss something right in front of me. I'll miss something very obvious right next to me. And she compliments. We work together better. Don't try to understand each other. Embrace the differences that God has given to you. Don't be frustrated. Use them. Because God has given them to you that you might be more effective for Him. That being said, we finish up. In verse 16, as we're told, with those little foxes being taken care of, that they now have a commitment for one another. For the Shulamite says, my beloved is mine, and I am his. He feeds his flock among the lilies. The idea here is that she belongs to him. He belongs to her. There's a wonderful connection that's there that's going to last for a lifetime. Except, we know the history of Solomon. It sounds really romantic, by the way. I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. We're just meant for one another. The two of us will ride off into the sunset along with the other 999 women that Solomon marries. Which is where, remember, this is not just a love story. This is the love story. Did Solomon fail? Sadly, yes. Those wives that he had, the choices he made were a mistake. Go back to 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 3. His many wives turned his heart away from God. It was not a good decision. Though he made bad choices, it doesn't undo the truth that is the deeper love story here, which is we belong to Jesus. And he belongs to us. Really kind of cool. The word there, when it says, my beloved is mine and I am his, he feeds among the flocks. Literally, it means he is my shepherd. He's the one that watches over me. He's the one that protects me. Psalm chapter 23, verse 1 uses the exact same word. The Lord is my shepherd, and I will never want. If we have that relationship, if we understand that there's nothing else that matters beyond Jesus Christ, we understand that we are his and he is ours, that is ultimately the relationship that we're craving. What we look for in this world ultimately is fulfilled in Jesus Christ. He is the true love story. He is the fulfillment of what is declared here by the Shulamite woman. And she goes on to say, verse 17, to her beloved, until the day breaks, and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag upon the mountains of Bether. Here's the picture. How long is my beloved mine and I am his? Until the darkness goes away. The mountains of Bether are worth mentioning. It's an unusual word. It's only used 3 times in the entire Old Testament. The first time that it's used is back in the book of Genesis chapter 15. In regards to Abraham, you remember he made a covenant, a promise. He took 2 animals, and he split them in half. And he walked between the midst of them with the Lord there, giving him the promise, the covenant to the people of Israel. That splitting of the animals is the word Bether. It speaks of a covenant, a promise, and here's the idea. God promises that we are his and he is ours. How long do we have to wait for that promise? How long does that covenant stand? Until the darkness goes away and we get to see our Lord face to face. This is the true love story. We know that because Jesus died on the cross for us, because he made the promise to us, one day he will redeem us. We will be his bride forevermore. Let's close with a word of prayer. Salamat Panginoon para sa gabi, Father, we thank you as always. It's a blessing to get into your word. It's a blessing to see how much you love us. Lord, para sa amon Ginoo, we look and we go, kalaway kami. We're not that attractive. We're full of sin. We've made lots of mistakes. We're ordinary. Amoman kami sa ibang sa mga tao. Why would you care about us? But you go, no. Lord, you see us as that lily among the thorns. You see us as precious. You see us as priceless. Lord, you did everything to redeem us. And Lord, what an incredible thing to think that that's how much you love us. And Lord, that you have made a promise that you're going to be ours and we will be yours until the darkness is gone and we finally get to see you face to face. So we love you, we praise you, we thank you for that promise you give to us. And now in Jesus we say, Amen. Maayong gabi.